USA Today is reporting the first so-called dreamer has been deported, despite being protected under President Obama's program called Deferred Action for Childhood Arrivals, or DACA. Juan Manuel Montes said he did not have his wallet on him when a federal officer approached him and asked for his ID back in February. Within hours, the officer brought him in for questioning. The 23-year-old was deported to Mexico. Montes says his DACA status was renewed in 2016. The Department of Homeland Security says they have no record of Montes renewing his status, but his lawyers argue they provided a copy of his work authorization showing his DACA status valid through 2018. Joining me now is Karen Tumlin. She's managing attorney at the National Immigration Law Center, and she is representing Juan Montes. Karen, good to see you. Thank you for being with us. Juan is suing the Trump administration over his deportation. You say your firm provided a copy of his work authorization to the government showing his status valid through 2018. Have you had any response?
So we're really proud to represent Juan, and I would make one correction, which is the government themselves issued Juan's work authorization that shows on the front of it that it is valid until 2018, and they have a copy of that. We've seen a copy of it, so we didn't surrender that in the lawsuit because it's highly confidential, but that, of course, establishes the fact that his DACA was valid when he was deported. Okay,
but the Department of Homeland Security, according to the report, said they had no record of this. Are they the agency that would have the record of his DACA authorization?
Absolutely. They are the agency. It's the United States Citizen and Immigration Services, which is a sub-department of the Department of Homeland Security. They issued this document, so they certainly have a record of it.
So what's the confusion then? If he's got this document, if it was issued, if the Department of Homeland Security had it and you had it, how could they deport him?
That's the questions that we want answers to in this lawsuit. Juan has filed a Freedom of Information Act lawsuit because for over a month, we've gone to the federal government as his lawyers and said, we need answers. What happened to him? How did you deport him? Why did you deport him? Can you give us a copy of the documents he was forced to sign, which is his legal right? They've refused to provide that information. They told us to file a Freedom of Information Act request, which we did. They provided no information, so we've sued, as is Juan's right, to get those very documents and get the questions about why was he deported, how was he deported, and should he be brought home to the country he grew up in.
All right, just moments ago, Attorney General Jeff Sessions spoke about this case. Let's listen to it together.
DACA enrollees are not being targeted. I don't know why this individual was picked up. Everybody in the country illegally is subject to being deported. So people come here and they stay here a few years and somehow they think that they're not subject to being deported. Well, they are.
Okay, so that's confusing and contradictory because he said DACA enrollees are not being targeted, followed by, in the same sentence, anyone who's here who came to this country, even if they've been here for a few years, thinks that they're not. So can you make sense of that to me? Are they or are they not targeting DACA enrollees?
Yeah, and I absolutely agree with you, Ellie. It is confusing, and we need answers. That is the Attorney General, the top lawyer for the country, giving contradictory remarks. Similarly, the president has said that he has love in his heart for DACA recipients, but those statements are a cold comfort to Juan Manuel and his mom, who are now separated. And it's entirely one thing to say that DACA recipients are safe or you have love in your heart for them, but if there is no instruction being given to Border Patrol agents that says when you encounter someone who has DACA, you need to take that seriously. They have to have a process, and serious questions have to be asked before they can be deported late at night from the country they grew up in.